present The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler. Dramatized for radio by Bill Morrison. Starring Ed Bishop as Philip Marlowe, with Toby Robbins and Margaret Robertson. The Long Goodbye. California, 1953.
The first time I laid eyes on Terry Lennox, he was drunk in a Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith outside the terrace of the Dancers. A very beautiful redhead was in the driver's seat. He couldn't get his door closed. She watched him slide out into the gutter and then ticked off down Sunset Boulevard. I took him to my place and fed him coffee, and then when he sobered up enough to tell me where he lived, I took him home. He was the politest drunk I ever met. He wasn't old, but his hair was bone white, and the right side of his face was frozen and seamed with thin, fine scars. A plastic job, and a pretty drastic one. I left him in his rented room with a half-empty scotch bottle. I'm supposed to be the tough guy, but there was something about this guy that got to me. There was no reason why I should ever see him again, but I did, and this time he was on Skid Row. I picked him up before the cops did, gave him some food and a bath, and a very mild drink to keep him together.
Thanks, Marlowe. Maybe I can quit drinking one of these days. They all say that, don't they?
It takes about 3 years.
3 years?
Oh, you have to get used to a paler set of colors, a quieter lot of sounds, a different world. You have to allow for relapses. All the people you used to know well will get to be just a little strange. You won't even like most of them, and they won't like you too well.
That wouldn't be much of a change. Look, I have a $200 suitcase checked at the Hollywood bus station. If I could bail it out, I could pawn it for enough to get to Vegas on the bus. I can get a job there. You're thinking that idea might have come to me a little sooner.
I was thinking, were you English?
I've lived there. I wasn't born there.
Is this job for sure or just a hope?
Fellow I knew very well in the Army runs a club there. He's part racketeer, of course. They all are. The other part is a nice guy. Randy Starr?
Him? I'll put up what you need.
The suitcase will pawn for $50. I know from experience. You've helped me enough.
I want you out of my hair because I have a feeling about you.
Really?
Yeah, a feeling the next time I'll find you in worse trouble than I can get you out of. I don't know why I should, but that's how I feel.
Maybe it's my face. An honorable war wound. Or anyhow, the result of one.
Maybe the girl who slid her Rolls Royce out from under you at the Dancers had a feeling, too.
I was married to her once. Her name is Sylvia Lennox. I married her for her money. She has, her father, Harlan Potter, has a great deal. About $100 million.
She wouldn't help you?
I have my pride. I see you play chess.
Oh, I like to play against the books now and again. I played Steinitz last night. Played a French defense against him, went to 44 moves. If he was alive, I would have had him sweating a couple of times.
Will you take me to the bus station?
A few weeks later, I got a check for my $100 from him in Las Vegas, and a note wishing me all kinds of luck. The kick was in the postscript. Sylvia and I are starting a second honeymoon. Well, if the guy wanted to be somebody's woolly bear, it was no skin off my teeth. I just didn't want to see him again. But I just couldn't picture Terry loafing by the pool and phoning the butler to ice the champagne and get the grouse a toasting. 5 o'clock one evening, he rolled up at my down-at-heel brain emporium, looking very smart.
Care to step out to Victor's for a drink with me?
How is your drinking?
Perfectly elegant, old top. For some strange reason, I seem to be able to handle this stuff now.
Perhaps you were never really a drunk.
I'm rich again. Who the hell wants to be happy?
How did you get on with Randy Starr? Down my street, he's called a tough number.
In Las Vegas, he's a legitimate businessman. Respectable pillar of the community. Look him up next time you're there. He'll be your pal.
I don't like hoodlums.
That's just a word, Marlowe. It's the world we live in now. 2 wars gave it to us, and we're going to keep it. Randy and I and another fellow were in a jam once in the war. Made a sort of bond between us. Will you have a drink with me?
Why?
I was in a jam once.
After a while, it got to be a habit. We always drank gimlets.
You know, they don't know how to make them properly here. A real gimlet is half gin, half Rose's lime juice, and nothing else. It beats martinis hollow. Cheers.
Happy days. Why does a guy with your privileges want to drink with a down-at-heel private eye? We don't move in the same world.
Does that need an answer?
Well, sooner or later, I might figure out why you like being a kept poodle.
You should wonder why she wants me around, waiting on my satin cushion.
You like satin cushions?
Could be. I'm sorry for Sylvia. She's scared, Marlowe.
What of?
I don't know. Maybe of her old man? Harlan Potter is all Victorian dignity on the outside. Inside, he's just another thug. Sylvia's a tramp. He knows it and hates it. If she ever gets into a big mess, he'll break her in half and bury the pieces 1,000 miles apart.
You're her husband.
I'm her poodle. That's on the record. Now, let's have another drink.
No, thanks. You talk too damn much, and it's too damn much about you. I'll pay for the drinks. See you around. 10 minutes later, I was sorry. But 10 minutes later, I was somewhere else. I didn't see him again for a month. When I did, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I'm coming. Terry, you don't need a gun to get in. We're still talking.
I want you to drive me to Tijuana to get a plane at 10:15. I have a passport and a visa for Mexico. For certain reasons, I can't take a train or a plane from L.A. Would $500 be a reasonable taxi fare?
500 plus the gun?
Oh, that might be a protection for you, not for me.
Come on in.
I'm in a great deal of trouble, Philip.
I'll brew some coffee. I'm a little lightheaded when I first wake up.
Have you got a drink? I didn't sleep at all last night. It's peaceful here.
Yeah, I rented it off an old lady. She went to stay with her daughter. She couldn't manage all the steps up to the front door. I got it cheap. Me with a house. Give me the gun, Terry.
I didn't shoot anybody.
Mauser 7.65. Not fired recently. Not cleaned recently.
I'll tell you about it, Philip.
Well, it's like this, Terry. Be very careful what you tell me. If you really want me to ride you down to Tijuana, there are 2 things I must not be told. Now, are you listening?
Yes, I am.
1, if you have committed anything the law calls a serious crime. 2, if you have essential knowledge such a crime has been committed.
I need your help.
I have a license to protect.
It'll be noon or later before anybody knocks at her door. I help now better than to disturb her if she sleeps late. But then I'll find she's not in her bedroom. So the maid will look in the guest house and the grounds. Sylvia often spent the night there. It's more private. And the maid will find
Sylvia dead, drunk. That's the end of the story. Takes a little time to get a passport and visa for Mexico. Had you been planning to blow?
Yes, but I felt I had to stick around.
You got here at 5. What have you been doing the past few hours?
Some Turkish bath place. I called Harlan Potter in Pasadena. He's there on business. I told him I was sorry, but I was leaving.
How did he take it?
He asked if I needed any money. Those are the first 5 words in his alphabet. And I called Sylvia's sister, Linda. Same story.
Did you ever find Sylvia with a man?
I never tried. She's been married 5 times, not including me. Lots of men.
Why does it have to be the 10:15 to Tijuana?
It connects with where I want to go.
All right, here's the story. You came to me highly emotional, told me you had stood things as long as you could. But last night you'd found your wife drunk and she'd been with a man. So you got out, phoned your wife's 2 closest relatives and told them what you were doing. Now, we're friends and I did what you asked without much thought.
How does it sound?
Depends who's listening.
Maybe it would be better if if you were to call the cops.
You call them. I've nothing to tell them.
Do you want me to?
Oh, for Christ's sake, leave it lie.
I'm sorry.
Guys like you are always sorry, and always too late. Come on, let's get on the road. I got out the expensive suitcase he had left me and put some things in it. A razor, shirts, a pint of scotch. He put the gun in. We didn't stop all the way down. The border people never looked at us. I said goodbye to him and went home. He'd left 5 C-notes in my coffee can. I wished he hadn't. Then the cops arrived.
I'm Sergeant Green, Central Homicide. This is Detective Dayton.
Okay, what's this all about?
Know a man named Terry Lennox?
We have a drink together once in a while.
Know his wife?
I saw her once.
You saw him last when and where?
Who's dead?
Just answer the questions, Marlowe. We're conducting a routine investigation. That's all you need to know.
Shove it, Jack. Keep that for the Juvenile Bureau.
No. Dayton has passed the bar exam. You can't fool around with him.
Nobody has to tell the police anything, anytime, anywhere.
Lennox's wife has been murdered in a guest house at their place in Encino. Lennox has skipped out, so we're looking for a suspect in a murder case. That satisfy you?
Why come to me?
Your phone number was on a pad in his room. When did he call you last?
Why the guest house?
Seems she entertained a lot. Maybe for Lennox, too much was enough. The butler saw him go down there about 1 a.m. and come back 20 minutes later. Today, the butler finds the dame naked as a mermaid and with her face beaten to pieces by a bronze statuette of a monkey.
Terry wouldn't do anything like that.
He's now going to tell you, Sergeant.
Once more for the record, Marlowe. Last time you saw Terry Lennox, where and how, and what you talked about, and where you've been today.
What about the other guy?
What other guy?
Well, she didn't go down to the guest house to play solitaire. Who was with her?
That comes later, after we get the husband.
After you get a patsy. Terry was my friend. I've got a reasonable amount of sentiment invested in him. Enough not to spoil it just because a cop says come through.
I think you helped him escape. You're a sick chicken, Marlowe. A very sick chicken. Let's go downtown to headquarters.
My name is Captain Gregorius. You think you're tough. I know I'm tough. Now, Green tells me you won't talk. So I guess I better pick your nose for you.
It's pretty obvious that his whole attitude was designed to create a situation where he could refuse to talk. He quoted law at us, Captain.
How did you recognize it, Dayton? Oh, I forgot. You passed the bar exam. Now, Marlowe, you think any goddamn private eye is going to sit in a chair in front of me and quote law at me? Hell, there ain't a police force in the country that could do its job with a law book. You got information, and I want it. So talk.
If I told you I had seen him, but had no idea a crime had been committed, and further, had no idea where he might be at this moment, that wouldn't satisfy you at all, would it?
With details, it might grow into something.
With your treatment, it would probably grow into making me an accessory after the fact. I'd like to cooperate, Gory, but I need legal advice and a lawyer present.
Dayton's here. You see that, Dayton? You hit him on the side of the neck. It doesn't show. I must be getting old. You take a good punch, mister, and that's all you get from me. Now sit down.
Thanks.
We got boys over in the city jail that ought to be working in the stockyards. They live for different amusements. It takes all kinds and labor's scarce. Now, you got any more funny little ideas about what you might say if you bothered to say it?
You've solved the problem for me. No man likes to betray a friend, but I wouldn't betray an enemy to you. I wouldn't tell you the time by the clock on your own wall.
You're just a little old cop-hater, friend.
There are places where cops are not hated, Captain, but in those places you wouldn't be a cop.
Captain Gloria's office. Oh, one moment, please. It's the commissioner for you, sir.
The commissioner? Give me the phone. Gregorius, Commissioner. Oh, yeah, he's in my office. Not cooperative at all. If that's a direct order, it ought to come from the Chief of Detectives, Commissioner. Well, I'll act on it till it's confirmed. Yes, sir. Hell no, sir. Nobody laid a glove on him. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right away. Book him in the county jail. Suspicion. This guy's got friends. The DA has glommed the case right out of our hands. Get him out of here before I kick his face in.
After 2 days, some lawyer came to get me out on bail. I told him I would stay in. He wouldn't say who sent him, but I reckoned only Harlan Potter had the influence. $100 million can buy a lot of silence and a lot of lawyers. The only useful thing he told me was that nobody had found Terry Lennox. Another day passed.
Okay, Marlowe, my name is Grintz. I'm from the DA's office. I want a statement from you. If the chief deputy is satisfied with it, he may release you. I didn't say you could smoke.
I get so tired of it.
Tired of what?
Hard little men in hard little offices talking hard little words, all trying to prove you have the power. I was booked on suspicion. My phone number was on a pad. What the hell kind of a legal system lets a man be shoved in the tank because some cop didn't get an answer to some question? You think it's made gruel of my brains? You think I'm going to cry in your lap because I've been so awful lonely in this great big jail?
Okay, now you got the crap out of your system. Let's have the statement. Look, I'm offering you a chance to clear yourself. We have witnesses saw you and Lennox together at Tijuana Airport.
Even if you have to prove he committed a murder and that I knew it.
Look, Lennox is hard to hide. All those scars and that white hair. I mean, he got off the plane at Mazatlan and disappeared. Then 2 hours later, a dark guy who spoke Spanish and had what might have been a lot of knife scars chartered a plane to Autobiographical, a very small-time summer resort by a lake, booked into a hotel. The charter pilot thought the guy didn't seem kosher, so he told the local law.
Smart boy, your charter pilot. Nice to his customers.
Look, Marlowe, we want a quick trial. We'll accept a plea of second-degree murder. But the family's pretty influential. I mean, this case has everything. Sex, scandal, money, beautiful, unfaithful wife, wounded war hero husband. I mean, it could be front page for weeks. It could win an election. But the chief says shuffle it off in a fast fade. Okay, so cooperate. Give me a statement. It's over.
Your story stinks. Either Terry went to a lot of trouble to get caught, or you don't know where the hell he is.
I'm a public servant. Sometimes I have unpleasant duties, like now. Here's your release order. But, Marlowe, this rap is going to hang over you a long, long time. Okay, now you can go. You want to know why?
You're going to tell me anyway.
Lennox wrote out a full confession this afternoon in his hotel in Autobiographical, and then shot himself with a Mauser 7.65. The Lennox case is closed.
My house was very empty. I shaved and showered and went to bed and lay on my back listening, as if far off in the night I might hear a voice. The kind of calm and patient voice that makes everything clear. But nobody was going to explain the Lennox case to me. If Terry had killed his wife, that was fine. There was now no need to try him and bring out the unpleasant details. If he hadn't killed her, well, that was fine, too. A dead man is the best fall guy in the world. He never talks back. And I couldn't even give him his $500 back. That made me sore. It's always the little things that make you sore. Well, a customer. What can I do for you?
Tarzan on a big red scooter.
What?
You, Marlowe. Tarzan on a big red scooter. So, this is your office. You're small time, Marlowe. Very small time. How much you making a month? Well, $750 would be tops. You know who I am, cheapie.
Your name is Menendez. The boys call you Mendy. You operate on the strip.
That's me. And how did I get so big?
You started as a pimp in Mexico.
I'm a big, bad man, Marlowe. I make lots of dough. I got to make lots of dough to juice the guys I got to juice in order to make lots of dough to juice the guys I got to juice. I got a house in Bel Air, cost $90,000. What have you got?
Oh, this year I have a rented house to live in all to myself. $1,200 in the bank and a few thousand in bonds. Does that answer your question?
Jesus, how cheap can I get?
Stop hamming and tell me what you want.
Yeah. In a war, we were 3 guys in a foxhole. Randy Starr and me and Terry Lennox. A mortar shell plops right in the middle of us, and for some reason it don't go off. Not at once. Terry grabs it, and he's out of the foxhole before Randy and me can even start to get unstuck. He throws the thing away from him and throws himself face down. It goes off in the air, and it gets the side of his face.
Thanks for telling me.
The Krauts got Terry. They worked on him for about 1.5 years. They did a good job, but they hurt him. We made plenty of money in the black market after the war, and it cost us to find him. All he got out of saving our lives was half a new face, white hair, and a bad case of nerves. He was in New York, hitting the bottle. There was something on his mind, but we never knew what. Then he marries this rich dame out here, and he's riding high. And for another reason we don't know, he unmarries her. He hits bottom again, then marries her again. And she gets dead. Randy Starr and me can't do a thing for him. When he gets in a real fix, where we are experts, could have got him out of the country so fast, does he come to us? No. He goes to a sheepy like you, and he gets dead. Oh, that makes me sore.
Well, what do you want me to do about it?
Just lay off. He's dead. We don't want him bothered anymore.
A hoodlum with sentiment. Oh, that slays me.
Mandy Menendez don't argue with guys. He tells them. Find yourself another way to grab a buck.
Nobody offered me dough.
See you around, sheepy.
Well, thanks for telling me. Let me open the door for you, Mr. Menendez.
Yeah, that's more like it, sheepy.
How about this? Next time you bring a cannon, or don't call me cheapy.
I'm the guy to carry the gun. Chick, come in here.
What happened, boss?
This is Chick Agostino. He's with me. Now take a good look at this guy, Chick, because you and him might have business one of these days. Make sure you know him just in case. So long, sheepy.
Over the next 2 days, the Lennox case was buried. There was a brief inquest at an odd hour, and the verdict on Sylvia was death caused with homicidal intent by her husband, himself deceased outside the jurisdiction of the court. A confession was read into the record. He was buried in Mexico. A lawyer from the family went down and attended to it. All over, finished. Then I got the letter. It contained a portrait of President Madison. His portrait adorns a $5,000 bill. I'd never seen one before. There's only about 1,000 in circulation in the whole USA. It was almost what I made in a year. The letter was headed Otataclan, Mexico.
I'm writing this sitting at a second-floor window in my hotel. There's a mailbox in the street below. And when the mozo comes in with my coffee, he's going to mail this for me because I'm being watched. I want you to have the money. Call it an apology for making so much trouble and a token of esteem for a pretty decent guy. I've done everything wrong, as usual. My hunch is that you've probably made up your mind on a certain matter. I might have killed her, and perhaps I did, but I never could have beaten her to a pulp. So, something is very sour. But the main thing is to save unnecessary scandal. I've written a confession. I feel a little sick and more than a little scared. When all you have left is the gun in your pocket, when you're cornered in a dirty little hotel in a strange country and have only one way out, believe me, pal, it's not dramatic. It's just plain gray and nasty. So, forget it and me. And first, drink a gimlet for me at Victor's. And next time you make coffee, pour me a cup and put a shot of whiskey in it. And light my cigarette. A knock at the door. It will be the mozo, or it will be some shooting. I like Mexicans, but I don't like their jails. So long. Terry.
Next day, I got a call from a Mr. Howard Spencer to meet him in the Ritz Beverly to discuss a job. I went down there. There are blondes and blondes. The swimming pool was just outside the plate glass wall of the bar. A girl in a white sharkskin suit with a luscious figure was climbing the ladder to the high board. I watched the band of white that showed between the tan of her thighs and the suit. I watched it carnally. A moment later, she flashed down at a 1.5. Spray came high enough to catch the sun and make rainbows almost as pretty as the girl. Then she came up the ladder and unstrapped her white helmet and shook her bleach job loose. She wobbled her bottom over to a small white table and sat down beside a lumberjack in white drill. He reached over and patted her thigh. She opened her mouth like a fire bucket and laughed. That terminated my interest in her. I couldn't hear the laugh, but the hole in her face when she unzippered her teeth was all I needed. Right then, a dream walked in. Her hair was the pale gold of a fairy princess. Her eyes were cornflower blue, a rare color. She was slim and tall in a white linen suit, and the old waiter had the table already pulled out the way no waiter will ever pull a table out for the likes of me. When she sat down, she thanked him with a smile so gentle, so exquisitely pure, that he was damn near paralyzed. She was at the next table. I stared. She caught me staring. She lifted her glance a half an inch, and I wasn't there anymore. There are blondes and blondes.
In the first part of Bill Morrison's dramatization of The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler, Ed Bishop was Philip Marlowe, and Peter Marinker, Terry Lennox. Mandy Menendez was played by Blaine Fairman, Sergeant Green by William Roberts, Detective Dayton by Neville Jason, Captain Gregorius by Ramsey Williams, and Chick Agostino by Malcolm Jarrah. We present The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler, dramatized in 3 episodes by Bill Morrison, with Ed Bishop as Philip Marlowe. Episode 2, California, 1953. The bar of the Ritz Beverly Hotel.
Excuse me, Mr. Marlowe. I'm Howard Spencer. Will you join me in a drink, or is it too early?
Too early.
Now, Mr. Marlowe, do you read?
Well, if it's part of the job, I can tackle a book.
I can't stop. I get manuscripts shoved at me all the time. Free this morning, unsolicited. People I met at a party last night. Problems of being a publisher. One of our most important authors lives around here. Maybe you've read his stuff. Roger Wade?
Uh-huh.
No, I see your point. You don't care for historical romances, huh? But they sell brutally.
I looked at one of his books once. I thought it was tripe. Is that the wrong thing for me to say?
No. Many might agree with you. But the point is, at the moment, he's an automatic bestseller.
Is he your problem?
My problem is Roger Wade. He's due to deliver his new book, but he's losing his grip. Wild fits of drinking and temper. Disappears for days on end. Why, not long ago, he threw his wife down the stairs and put her into the hospital with 5 broken ribs. He simply goes nuts when he drinks. They live in Encino. Now, something is worrying him to death. I don't know what, and I don't want to know. I want him to finish his book.
I'm not a male nurse.
Well, his wife has to be protected.
I'd have to be there all the time.
But I want to save a very able writer, and the only salvation for a writer is to write. But he won't even let me see him or talk to him this trip.
Yeah, I can go see him, talk to his wife, but my guess is he'll throw me out of the house.
No, Mr. Marlowe, I don't think he would do that.
Marlowe, this is Eileen Wade.
Oh, please don't get up. I know I owe you an apology for sitting over there, but it seemed important to me to have a chance to observe you. I think my husband might like you, Mr. Marlowe.
Mrs. Wade, I'm sorry. I don't think I could do any good, and it might do a lot of harm to try.
Oh, don't decide too soon, please. You can't judge people by what they do. If you judge them at all, it must be by what they are. If you should change your mind, you can reach me at this number. Thank you for being here. Goodbye, Mr. Marlowe.
Goodbye, Eileen.
Bye.
You ought to have looked at her once in a while, Spencer. A dream like that doesn't sit at the next table without you even noticing.
Stupid of me, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you should think up another story. I don't believe anybody, drunk or sober, would throw that gorgeous down the stairs and break her ribs.
You think I'm a liar?
What's the difference what I think?
I don't care for your tone. Look, if you don't like the idea, Marlowe, you can just forget the whole thing.
There are blondes and blondes, but she was singular. She came to my door the next morning. The last time anybody sat there drinking coffee with me was just before I went to jail. I guess you know about that, Mrs. Wade.
I read about it, yes. You were suspected of having helped him escape, weren't you?
They didn't say. Neither did I. But I don't suppose you're interested in that.
Of course I'm interested. A neighbor of ours knew the Lennoxes. He was badly wounded in the war, wasn't he? I suppose that might explain why he did what he did. Has Howard Spencer told you my husband wouldn't see him?
Yes.
I had to tell him a lie. My husband has been missing for 3 days, Mr. Marlowe. I came here to ask you to find him and bring him home.
Has it happened before?
Quite a few times.
When was the last time?
3 weeks ago. Roger was brought home late at night by a man in a cowboy suit, such as you might see on the stage. Roger said he'd been at a sanatorium taking a cure.
There's always a doctor in the background. Well, it takes 3 days to sober up. Why won't the Lone Ranger bring him back again? What's different?
I've been married to Roger for 5 years. He was always a drinker, but now I want him found.
Any idea why he drinks?
I don't know. Unless it's me. Men do fall out of love with their wives.
Does he always get violent when he's drunk? With women? Did he throw you down the stairs?
Oh, please. Too much has been made of that. This might help. It's a note I found at his desk. Typed. He types perfectly even when he's very drunk.
I do not like you, Dr. V, but right now you're the man for me.
I love my husband, Mr. Marlowe. I don't want to be the means of hurting him. Whatever he's done.
A well-heeled patient with incipient DTs could be money from home for half the clacks of 8 counties. So I went to see a friend of mine in the Carn organization, a big flossy detective agency that specialized in protection for the carriage trade. George let me see their file on the barred window boys. There were 3 Dr. V's. I checked them all. The last was a Dr. Veringer, who had a ranch in Sepulveda Canyon. It was closed with a for sale sign, and I was warned off by a bimbo who saw himself as the last cowboy hero. I went back after sundown and twisted his rope and found Wade in a cabin. He was pretty weak, but he was sober. He was willing to come home with me. So we paid off the quack and left. Candy, Wade's Mexican houseboy, put him to bed. By then I was feeling mad. She stood very close to me, thanking me. Mrs. Wade, did you know Sylvia Lennox? Is that why you wanted to hire me?
I didn't know her personally.
Your husband said he knew her.
Oh, a neighbor of ours is her sister. He knew her socially.
You know something? I think you knew where your husband was all the time. You just wanted to get me involved, tangled up with him, so that I'd feel a sense of responsibility to look after him. Or am I crazy?
Oh, this is nonsense.
I'd rather be a heel.
I don't understand.
If I hadn't been a nice guy to another drunk, to Terry Lennox, he would still be alive.
How can you be so sure? Good night, Mr. Marlowe. And thank you for almost everything.
1 gimlet. You on your own tonight?
Yeah.
Taste that. Good?
It's good.
I heard you and your friend talking one night, so I got me a bottle of that Rose's lime juice to make him like he wanted them. But you never came back.
My friend left town. But thanks for taking the trouble.
No trouble. I just made one for the lady here.
Good evening.
Was your friend English?
Why?
Lime juice. That's how they got called, limeys.
Oh. No, I guess maybe he was there during the war. We used to come here once in a while.
I may have known him. What was his name?
Lennox.
Yes, I knew Terry very well. Perhaps too well.
My name is Philip Marlowe.
Mine is Linda Loring. So you're the man. Marlowe. A bit of a sentimentalist, Mr. Marlowe.
How about yourself?
I knew him. As I said, I knew him too well. Too well to think it mattered to him very much what happened to him. But he didn't have to kill her.
I wouldn't be here drinking a gimlet if I believed that.
He left a confession.
I haven't seen it. Could you by any chance be related to the Potter family, Mrs. Loring?
Sylvia Lennox was my sister. I thought you would know.
Oh, with the hush your old man, excuse me, Mr. Harlan Potter put on this case, I'd be lucky to know she had a sister.
My father's hardly that powerful and certainly not that ruthless.
Isn't he?
No. Father liked Terry. He said he was a gentleman 24 hours a day, not just for the 15 minutes between the time the guests arrive and the time they feel their first cocktail. If Terry had asked him for help, I think he would have given it. But once Terry was dead, what did it matter?
What are you trying to sell me? That Harlan Potter maybe had doubts and didn't lift a finger to find out? That he wouldn't dream of using his influence on the DA to drop the blanket on a murder investigation? His lawyer, not a cop, went down to Mexico to make sure Terry had put a slug in his head after he confessed. I'm told your old man is worth $100 million. For that, lady, you do business with some funny people.
Let me give you a very simple word of warning, Mr. Marlowe. If you go around saying my father is that kind of man, your career is apt to be very short.
I get it from cops, I get it from the hoods, and now I get it from the carriage trade. Oh, you rich people are really something. You think you can say anything you choose. It's all right. But if I hand you back a little change, that's liable to end me up in the boneyard. Goodbye, Mrs. Loring.
This is for you, Marlowe. I'm on the wagon, and I hate it. And I'm going to hate the party we're having tonight. Every damn person there will be saying, "There's Roger Wade. He's an alcoholic. He's crazy. He's on the wagon." How long will that last? Let's see what happens. Here.
Thanks.
I want to thank you for bringing me home that night. I'm glad you came out to the house so I could do it properly.
How's the work going?
Fine, except that I get tired too quick. I was always a hard man with a bottle, but when you're pushing 50, you don't snap back the same way.
How long will it last?
What do you think I'm running away from, Marlowe?
No idea.
Look, how about you coming to live here for a while? You could do me a lot of good just being here.
I don't see how.
Would $1,000 a month interest you? Well, would it? I'm dangerous when I'm drunk. I don't want to be dangerous, and I don't want to be drunk.
I couldn't stop you.
3 months. 3 months, and I'll finish the book. I'm asking you, as a friend, I do things when I'm drunk, and I don't remember them. 3 months, $3,000. You did more than that for Lennox.
I got him killed.
Now, don't go soft on me, Marlowe. There's something I want to know, that I have to know.
About whom?
I think it's about me. Now, let's join the party. Let's have a drink.
In the end, he handled himself pretty well. Didn't get too drunk and went to bed right after the people left. I left, too. And nothing happened for a week, except that I went about my business, which just then didn't happen to be very much business. Then, late one night, Wade called, his voice thick. He asked me to come over. Then there was a crash and silence. I found Eileen Wade standing calmly in the doorway. It was an unnatural calm. She had called the doctor. He turned out to be Linda Loring's husband, Dr. Loring.
A superficial cut and bruises. No chance of concussion. His breath indicates his condition rather obviously.
He tipped his chair too far back and fell over.
Now keep him warm. You might bathe his head and get rid of the blood.
Yes.
He'll sleep it out. I'm more concerned about you, Mrs. Wade.
I'm all right.
And I wish you good night.
Doctor.
What is it?
I can't get him upstairs alone.
Then leave him where he is. I came as Mrs. Wade's doctor. I do not treat alcoholics. And even if I did, he would not be one of my patients. The houseboy can help.
It's his night off. Nobody's asking you to treat him. Just help to get him to his bedroom.
Marvin, is that it? Well, Mr. Marvin, I'm not interested in what you want, or in a man who can't leave other men's wives alone.
It must be a long time since you glanced at that little piece of prose called the Hippocratic Oath.
Get out of my way or I'll call the police. As a respected professional...
You're
man...
a handful of flea dirt. Goodbye.
Marlowe, are you there?
Yeah. You're in bed.
Oh. Did you hit me?
No, but you took a fall while you were telephoning me.
Always available, aren't you, fella? Where's Eileen?
She took some pills, went to bed. She's had it rough. It's 2 a.m.
Did I hit her?
You didn't touch her.
Oh.
You just wandered outdoors and passed out. Candy, the mechs, helped me get you up here. Now, quit talking, go to sleep.
Sleep? What'd that be?
You want a pill?
Yeah, there's some of my wife's in the drawer.
Are all of these hers? This is like a drugstore. Here's some Seconal. All prescriptions by nice Dr. Loring. He made a crack tonight about other men's wives.
He makes that crack every time he comes here. Probably in every house he visits. He's pretty jealous of Linda.
Here, take these. He has reason. She's a hell of a lady.
So's my wife. Stay away from her. There's nothing to share. Nothing. I know. Oh, hey, wait. Do me a favor, Marlowe. I wrote some crazy stuff I don't want Eileen to see. It's on my typewriter. Tear it up for me.
Sure. Go to sleep.
I can't remember anything else.
Have you got a gun?
Yeah, in the desk in my study.
Go to sleep.
Yeah. You ever kill anyone, Marlowe?
Yes.
Nasty feeling, isn't it?
Some people like it.
How could they? Oh.
Mrs. Wade? Mrs. Wade, are you awake?
Paul?
Things are okay. He's asleep. I thought I should tell you.
Oh, you've come back.
What?
I always knew you would come back to me. Even after 10 years.
Mrs. Wade,
I waited for you. I kept myself for you, Paul.
Mrs. Wade, Eileen,
No. Put me on the bed. I waited for you. No.
What time is it? 6:30.
You want some coffee, senor?
Candy, yeah. Oh, quietly.
Your boss is okay. Asleep. Why you got drunk down here on the couch?
I had to.
You couldn't make it with her, huh? She threw you out?
Oh, have it your own way.
You want it black?
Yeah.
Here. Then you scram out, huh? We don't want you here.
Who's we?
I take care of your boss.
Oh, I'll bet you do. How much is it worth for not speaking what you know?
Somebody's got to take care of him.
How much on top? A couple of yards?
What's that?
$200.
Maybe you give me 2 yards so I don't tell your boss we come out of her room last night.
That could buy a whole busload of wetbacks like you.
I'm no cholo. My name is Juan Garcia de Soto y Sotomayor, and Chilean. I know what goes on here. I look after the force.
What does go on around here?
Just don't you come around here anymore. I take care of it.
I'm leaving, Greaseball. Thanks for the coffee.
Good morning, Candy.
Oh, Mrs. Wade, good morning. I bring you more coffee.
Thank you. Mr. Marlowe, I thought you'd gone home.
I got drunk, but I'm leaving now.
Oh, you were a wonderful help last night, Mr. Marlowe. I don't know how to thank you.
I seem to remember you made a pretty good try.
I had a curious dream last night. Someone I used to know was in the house. Someone who's been dead for 10 years. He died in the war. Strange, he had the same initials as you. I dreamt he was here. That's why I'm wearing this pendant today. He gave it to me.
Is that some kind of military badge?
Yeah. I do love my husband, Mr. Marlowe. Not as a young girl loves, perhaps, but I do love him. That improbable love only comes once. Oh, I'm being silly. Are you coming back?
I hope not. But let me know how Roger gets on.
There's always another love, isn't there? Another man, another woman.
Linda Loring?
We are not talking about the same thing.
Just what did you expect of me, Mrs. Wade? What have I got to offer?
You kept faith when it couldn't have been easy.
Not even a fool does that twice. You'd better find Roger the right kind of doctor, and quick.
Because of last night. He'll be up and working by this afternoon.
Like hell he will.
I know him so well.
Maybe you don't want to save him. Maybe you just want to look as if you do.
That is a horrid thing to say.
It was the best I could do at this hour of the morning. There are blondes and blondes. Ordinarily, I'm not a morning drinker, but I was on my second out of the office bottle. I thought maybe I was going crazy. It had taken all my strength to get out of that bedroom. You don't turn down that sort of invitation very often in a lifetime. But was the invite meant for me? Something more than alcohol was the matter with the Wade family. I read the papers Wade had wanted me to destroy. They were full of disgust and drunkenness, and a few other things that almost made too much sense. Now, it was still my day for beautiful women, because then Linda Loring walked in.
I'll come straight to the point, Marlowe. On that last ride with Terry down to Tijuana, he had plenty of time to talk. Did he give you a list? A list of his wife's lovers?
You told me Terry killed her.
A list that might include some violent and irresponsible man capable of beating her to death? Why are you making yourself so useful to Roger Wade?
His publisher asked me, his wife asked me, he asked me to help him finish his book. You seem to care a lot about him. You carrying a torch for him?
I hate remarks like that. Just tell me what you propose to do next.
Nothing.
What a waste of talent.
So maybe Wade did know your sister Sylvia. He was just one of a rich collection. And Terry gave me no list. Let's leave it there.
I wish we could. Perhaps I'm wrong about you.
Am I wrong about you?
Would you come home with me? I have a guest who would like to meet you.
The old man?
I don't call him that.
Mr. 100 Million Harlan Potter himself. Yeah. Why not?
It will save time if I put my position before you. Though don't smoke, Mr. Marlowe. I'm subject to asthma. I believe you are interfering in my affairs. I propose to stop it.
I don't know enough about your affairs to interfere in them.
I know who you are and how you make your living, if you make one. I know how you became involved with Terry Lennox, that you have doubts about his guilt, and that you have made contact with a man, a writer, Wade. I understand that this refusal of yours to accept the police evidence may have given you some strange notions. Notions, Mr. Marlowe, but no proof.
Well, maybe my notions aren't important, Mr. Potter, but they're all I have. You forgot to mention that you sent a lawyer to try to get me out of jail. And when I got out, a hoodlum named Mendy Menendez gave me a song and dance and warned me to keep my nose clean.
Surely you're not under the impression that I number this Menendez among my acquaintances.
I wouldn't know, Mr. Potter. A man doesn't make your kind of money in any way I can understand. Then your daughter told me I might have a short, unhappy career if I got you mad. Are you mad, Mr. Potter?
When I am, you will not have to ask me.
I think all you wanted was quiet. But just what have I done to disturb you?
You're exactly right in thinking all I want is quiet. I am a family man in an age when that means almost nothing. One of my daughters married a professional prig. The other made a number of foolish marriages, the last to a complacent pauper who allowed her to live a worthless and immoral life until he suddenly lost his self-control and murdered her.
Not the way she was killed. Terry wasn't the kind of man to beat her to death.
She was shot.
What?
With a Mauser automatic. She was beaten after to cover the bullet wound. Remember, he had been in the war and suffered a good deal. The gun was my daughter's. Perhaps Terry didn't mean to kill her. If they had struggled for the gun and she was shot, that would have been an excellent defense. But he ran away, and even that he did clumsily. I could not permit the kind of trial that would result. To be frank, I was very glad when I learned that he had left a confession and killed himself.
I'll bet. But are you convinced he killed her?
Of course he did, and that is why the matter ended there.
Okay, you made your point. What goes from here?
I think you're a pretty honest sort of fellow. Don't be a hero. There's no percentage in it. One of these days, I may be able to throw some business your way. Goodbye, Mr. Marlowe. Thank you for coming.
The black chauffeur drove me back in the custom-built Cadillac. I offered him $1, but he wouldn't take it. I offered to buy him the poems of T.S. Eliot. He said he already had them. He studied them for his degree. Then I got a call from George Peters of the Carn Organization, who would help me find Dr. V. One of their operatives, a New York man, had been in town and mentioned he had seen a guy who looked just like Terry Lennox, the white hair and the scars, in New York about 6 years back. Only then he called himself Paul Marston. So I called Sergeant Green at Homicide. Terry had no war record in Washington. They checked. So he wasn't in the U.S. Army. You'd better read these pages, Wade.
What are they?
You don't remember asking me to tear them up last night?
I don't remember a damn thing since I fell and cut my head. Why didn't you tear them up?
Is your wife here?
She's out shopping.
And Candy?
It's his afternoon off. Whew. Did Eileen see these?
No.
Pretty wild, isn't it?
I liked the part about a good man dying for you.
I owe you money. Will 1,000 be enough? I'll get my checkbook in the desk.
Let me get it for you. I don't want your money. I'm looking for a gun. A Mauser.
Mine's a Webley.
It's not here.
I mislay things.
Sylvia Lennox was shot in the head with a Mauser.
I guess you think I killed her and let Lennox take the rap. But damn it, man, her head was beaten in. You don't do that just because a woman is a tramp.
I'm not accusing you. But the guy who got the credit was a lot less likely than you. And what's eating you is that you're not sure yourself.
Open up the bottle, pour us a couple of drinks.
No.
And I'll get it myself. What are you trying to do to me, huh? You want to tell my wife, the cops? What good will that do?
What good will the booze do?
My memory is all in here.
No, I think your wife should be home. Somebody has to look after you, but I'll be goddamned if it's going to be me.
She'll be home. By then I'll be passed out, I hope. She can entertain you. You'd like to share her dreams and sniff the rose of her memories. Yeah, maybe I would too. But there's nothing to share. Nothing. Stick around. When I get lit enough, I'll tell you about all the women I've murdered.
All right, Wade, but I won't watch you. I'll be outside, down by the lake.
Yeah, go watch the blondes. Go watch the water skiers. You're as lonely as me, Marlowe.
You ever hear of a guy called Paul Marston?
No, never did. You're right. I just don't remember.
In Part 2 of Bill Morrison's dramatization of The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler, Ed Bishop was Philip Marlowe and Toby Robbins Eileen Wade. David March played Roger Wade, Don Fellows Howard Spencer, Margaret Robertson Linda Loring, Paul Maxwell Dr. Loring, and Bob Sherman Harlan Potter. Chick Agostino was played by Malcolm Gerard, Big Willie Magoon by Bill Morrison, Candy by Anthony Daniels, and the barman by Brian. We present The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler, dramatized in 3 episodes by Bill Morrison, with Ed Bishop as Philip Marlowe. Episode 3, California, 1953, at the home of Roger Wade.
Marlowe. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot my keys. I thought it was Candy.
Why? It's his day off.
Oh, yes, of course. Why are you here? Is anything wrong?
Well, there's a little drinking being done. I looked in a while ago. He was asleep on the couch in the study. I was down by the lake. It was lucky the speedboats had stopped. I wouldn't have heard your bell.
Will you have some tea? I'm going to have some.
Okay.
Would you see if he's still all right? Will I go upstairs for a moment?
Sure. Oh, Christ. I knew by the smell in the air. The Webley lay between his chest and the back of the couch. The side of his face was a smeared mask. He was still warm. He hadn't left a note. The shot must have been muffled by the speedboat. His final impulse had coincided with it. I didn't touch him. All I took was the papers he had written the previous night. I had some questions to ask.
Well, Philip Marlowe. You're always finding bodies, Marlowe, ever since I've known you.
I thought you were still on the DA's staff, Bernie.
I am now Lieutenant Bernard Olds, Assistant Chief of Homicide, so be polite.
I'll try, Lieutenant. How is Mrs. Wade?
Too relaxed. She must have grabbed some pills. There's half a dozen kinds up there, even Demerol, and that's bad stuff. It's a pity she moved the body.
She was rocking him in her arms.
She said an interesting thing to me. She said you killed him.
She didn't mean it literally.
You supposed to watch the guy when he's alone?
No. I was asked to, but I turned the job down. But things kept happening, and I kept having to pick him up.
Lieutenant, is there anything else you want from me? Dr. Loring, yeah. What did you give her Demerol for, Doc?
I prescribe for my patient as I think proper. I am not required to explain why.
She's got a regular drugstore up there. And you just hand them on, huh? Is the lady suffering from something serious?
A drunken and violent husband can be a very serious complaint indeed for a sensitive woman.
You wouldn't treat him, huh?
That is impertinent. I shall report you.
Yeah, do that.
Look, let me make it clear. I do not treat alcoholics. And I shall do exactly what I think best for Mrs. Wade. She suffers from asthma. Goodbye.
Well, you gotta be diplomatic with his kind of people.
Do you know whose son-in-law he is?
Yeah. I'm bleeding internally with panic. Still, it means there'll be no reporters on my back. You want to blow?
If you'll let me. I thought I was a suspect.
We might oblige you later. You were alone in the house with him. But so far, it's a typical suicide wound. Too much blood on the gun for prints.
Oh, make sure you check the alcohol concentration in his blood.
Yeah, it might be too high. But somebody would have to come along, know where the gun was, find him drunk enough to be asleep, wait for the speedboat to make enough noise. I'm assuming if you were going to kill a guy, you'd do it a little less obviously. I don't buy it.
Yeah. I'll be home if you want me.
Do that. You know what else I don't figure? This man Wade was a big-time writer. I mean, I don't go for his sort of crap, but I'm just a cop. He had the dough, reputation, beautiful wife, house. What the hell made all that too tough to live with? Now, if you know, you'd better get ready to lay it on the line. See ya.
When I got home, I mixed a stiff one and stood by the open window and listened to the ground swell of traffic on Laurel Canyon Boulevard and looked at the glare of the big angry city hanging over the shoulder of the hills. Out there in the night of 1,000 crimes, people were dying, being maimed, cut by flying glass, crushed under wheels, being beaten, robbed, raped, murdered. People were hungry, sick, bored, desperate with loneliness or fear, cruel, feverish, shaken by sobs. A city. Rich, vigorous, and full of pride. Lost, beaten, full of emptiness. It all depends on where you sit and what your own private score is. I didn't have one. I didn't care.
Hey, Marlowe.
Lieutenant.
Call me Bernie, like the old days.
Okay, Bernie. Join me in a cup of coffee.
Yeah. And a donut, buddy. What did you think of the inquest?
Kid gloves.
You liked the suicide verdict, didn't you?
What else could it be?
Yeah. I'm past 50. I'm an old cop. And an old cop is an old bastard. Philip, I don't like a few things about this.
Such as?
I don't like that he left no note.
He was drunk.
That guy wrote letters to himself. Drunk or sober, he hits that typewriter. That guy would have left a 2-page letter. The next thing I don't like is that he pulled the trigger just when the boat would hide the shot. And the wife forgot her keys on the staff's day off. She rang the bell. She could have walked round the back. Suppose she arrives, sees you down by the lake, didn't forget her keys, went in, got the gun from wherever it was hidden, waits for the right moment, plugs in, goes out, then rings the doorbell.
Yeah, you forgot the basic question. What motive?
Yeah, that knocks it. If she wanted money, she could have divorced him. She had a good cause, Sylvia Lennox. And she had to arrive at just the right time. Unless you were in on it with her.
What kind of a crack is that?
The Mex houseboy says you were in her room the night before. He said a lot of things he couldn't prove.
Oh, lay off, Bernie.
You were pretty helpful to those people, and you didn't make a dime. You were pretty helpful to Lennox, the way I hear, and you didn't make a dime out of that. What do you do for eating money? You got a lot saved up so you don't have to work no more?
I'm a romantic. I hear voices crying in the night, and I go see what's the matter. You don't make a dime that way. I've got a $5,000 bill that I'll never spend because something was wrong with the way I got it. I take it out and look at it once in a while, though.
Yeah, it must be a phony. Except they don't make phonies that big. So what's your point with all this yap?
No point at all, Bernie.
Yeah? I know when I'm being kidded. And I know when a guy is holding out on me. The wise guy never fools anybody but himself. Take it from me, I know. There's my dimes. For the coffee and the donut.
Okay, shake it, Carl. Come on, shake it.
Hello, Mindy.
Oh, hello, Chippy. Hey, sit down and talk. I'm looking over some acts for my floor show.
You could cut your throat for one.
And what would I do for an encore, huh? Okay. Take a break, kids. You've been keeping your nose clean, Chippy?
All I want is some more information, Mindy. Like about Paul Marston.
Never heard of him.
That was the name Terry used one time in New York.
So?
There's no record in those names with the U.S. Army. So either that foxhole yarn of yours was all tamales, or it happened somewhere else.
Take a kind word and forget the whole thing, huh?
You mean I do something you don't like and I'm swimming to Catalina with a streetcar on my back? Don't scare me, Mindy. You ever been in England?
You read the evening paper?
No.
Front page story about Big Willie Magoon, the vice squad of Wimble. Seems he tried to shake down 4 boys in a car with a Las Vegas registration. Now he has both arms in plaster and his jaw wired in 3 places and one leg in high traction. Magoon ain't tough anymore.
Yeah. Were you ever in England, Mindy?
We weren't fighting for the Germans. We were patriots, Chippy.
Okay, yeah. It was a British commando unit. It happened in Norway on an island off the coast, 1942. Now will you lie down and rest? Terry was my pal. I got feelings too, you know. Okay. Okay, girls. Let's have you back then. And remember Big Willie Maroon. He'll never dance again.
Oh, your secret is safe with me.
Come on, girls! Keep it moving! Let's have some action here!
I called George Peters at the Carn organization and asked him to get in touch with their investigators in London. It took 5 days to get the answer I wanted. By then, Howard Spencer was back in town. He was still after Wade's unfinished novel. I told him what had happened, and Bernie Old's suspicions, and asked him to take me to see Eileen Wade. I needed a witness.
I don't know anything about this, Eileen.
Of course.
I see you're wearing that pendant again.
I often do. It was given to me by a very dear friend a long time ago.
It's a British military badge, isn't it?
A jeweler's reproduction of one, yes.
May I see it?
Yeah. Why are you so interested? It's the badge of a territorial regiment called the Artists' Rifles. The man who gave it to me was lost in Norway in the spring of that terrible year, 1940.
Eileen was in London all through the Blitz.
Were you in love with this man?
He was in love with me.
This badge came into existence when the Artists' Rifles were made over into a special air service outfit in 1947.
Oh, there must be some mistake.
That's one way of putting it.
Is the other way to say I'm a liar? That I never knew Paul, never loved him. He was never missing in action. He never gave me that badge, that I bought it in a curio shop.
I think you did. But Paul Marston was missing in action in Norway in 1942.
The war was a rough time, Marlowe.
Yeah.
Memories get confused.
Yeah. This is a certified copy of a marriage certificate, August 1942, from Somerset House in London. Paul Edward Marston and Eileen Victoria Samsel. Was that you?
Yes, it was.
Marston was a fake name. In the Army, you had to have permission to get married. He faked his name instead. But I have his Army history under his real name.
Howard, please understand that the man was dead long before I met Roger. I never stopped using my maiden name. Roger knew all about it. How he was killed in action. Lost to me.
Your husband denied knowing the name Paul Marston.
Howard, must I be subjected to this?
I don't understand why you lied about the dates. 1940 instead of 1942, wearing a badge Marston couldn't have given.
He did. Perhaps not this one. Oh, it's like a dream to me. Perhaps I'm lost. Perhaps I don't want to remember. So many friends were killed in the bombing. Always the kind and gentle ones get killed.
Now, let's stop this, Marlowe.
One more question. Did you ever see Paul Marston again?
How could I when he was dead?
Of course. Now, I think we'll get back to town. I'll just collect the manuscript, and I'm sorry, Eileen.
Spencer, I told you Marston was a fake name, and he wasn't reported killed, just missing. He was taken prisoner. He was in New York using that name 6 years ago. I heard about it because the scars made him conspicuous.
What?
Paul Marston was Terry Lennox, and he lived just down the road.
Eileen?
I saw him just once. He was dreadfully changed. Not my memory. He knew me. It was at a party at Linda Loring's. We didn't speak. The next day he left his wife. Then I heard she divorced him. He was down and out. I used to dream that I would find him one day, just as he was. I wasn't prepared. And then he married her again, that whore. A whore who'd also been with my husband.
Did Roger kill her?
Did he tell you?
It was tearing him to pieces not to.
He didn't know. He couldn't remember.
Well, that sort of thing doesn't happen.
I was there. I saw him do it. I spied on them. I should be ashamed of that, I suppose, but I'm ashamed of nothing. The time came, as it must to people like Roger, when he was no longer a satisfactory lover. She screamed at him, stark naked. Then she tried to hit him with the statuette of the monkey. Roger was drunk. He'd had sudden spells of violence before. Oh, you can guess the rest. He was my husband. He'd done an awful thing, but she was an awful woman.
Have you any more to tell us?
It was destroying him. Perhaps he'll remember that afternoon he killed himself. We'll never know. Do we want to know? Please, Howard, I'm very tired. I can't answer anymore. I must lie down.
Of course. Sylvia Lennox wasn't beaten to death. She was shot to death first by a Mauser. You don't happen to have one?
I've told you my story. I'm going upstairs now. I do not wish to be disturbed any further.
What was all that? Did she kill Sylvia Lennox?
Yeah. Shot her and then beat her face to pulp. That set up Wade as our suspect. But Terry was a gentleman. He protected her. He took the rap. Except that I didn't believe it. So she had to know how much I knew. And in the end, she had to kill Wade to stop him talking.
We've got to call the police.
Tomorrow.
Oh, but damn it.
We haven't enough hard evidence to fill a traffic ticket. Let the boys who are paid for it work it out.
Why, there's such a thing as justice.
Tomorrow.
Well, I suppose you know what you're doing. Anyway, she must be at least a little insane. They'd never convict her, would they?
They won't try. The cops closed this case. But she doesn't know that. I was a one-man death watch through the dark hours until I got the phone call from Candy. I knew he had listened to all we said. He knew the score. And he had been loyal to his boss. He had left her alone until the morning. He told me the bottle of Demerol pills was empty, and she was dead. I told him to tell the truth to the cops, then I made coffee. Yards of coffee. Strong, bitter, boiling hot, depraved, the lifeblood of bone-tired men. Marlowe.
This is Lieutenant Gould. Okay, wise guy. Get down here and suffer.
You could have told us. The phones were working the whole day, all day, but you couldn't tell us.
Would you have believed it? What would you have done anything about it?
Now, listen, I told you, a wise guy never fools anybody but himself. This time you've gone too far.
Ernie, slow down.
Yeah. Sit down, Marlowe. This is Captain Hernandez.
Marlowe. Okay. Mrs. Wade left a confession, a purported confession. Now, there's a background of emotional exhaustion, bereavement, drugs, the strain of a clandestine marriage, and Lennox coming back, and so on. In all the circumstances, the DA's office don't feel the confession will be grounds for an indictment, even if she had lived. They see no reason for it to be published. There'll be no inquest. That's what the DA's office has told me.
I was all set to pull her in for questioning. I'd evidence. Wade did have too much alcohol in his blood. He couldn't have killed himself.
Did you find a Mauser?
Lemex found it. He says Wade never threw her downstairs. She fell. She drove the guy nuts. She was a dream girl. Some of her was here and now, but a lot was there and then. If she ever got hot, it wasn't for her husband.
Goodbye, coppers.
What are you not convinced about?
If anybody had bothered to do any real solid work on the Lennox case in the first place, they would have dug up the connections.
That's not how police investigations work, and you know it. You don't fool around with an open and shut case when you have a written confession from Lennox and a suicide afterwards.
So, now you have two confessions for the same crime. I take it you believe hers. But the DA says no publicity, so I stir it up. The truth doesn't matter.
Are you telling us?
We have our instructions. I have to go down the hall. Before you go, you might want to read her confession. Here. And listen, there are 5 photocopies in the file. Don't touch them.
I made them myself. They're not official.
Come on, Bernie, it's over. We've got work to do.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Thanks. Thanks, Captain. I took it straight to Lonnie Morgan of the L.A. Journal. I was drinking a gimlet in Victor's when the evening edition hit the street. It was on page 1. I drank another gimlet and thought about Terry down there in Mexico writing a confession. And a bell that should have rung long before rang in the back of my head. I took a cab back to my quiet, empty house, set by itself at the top of all those steps. The door was lying open. Mendy and some out-of-town boys were waiting for me. He started giving me the treatment Big Willie Magoon got. And Bernie Olds walked in like the 5th Cavalry. Magoon was a lousy cop, but still a cop, so they couldn't let Mendy get away with it. Captain Hernandez had set me up. The leaked confession had been the bait to flush him out. They even had Randy Starr's cooperation. He sent the boys himself from Vegas. They were cops. Starr was on the police commission there. Police business. Wonderful, uplifting, idealistic work.
Marlowe. This is Linda Loring. I've just come back from Lake Tahoe. Someone up there is boiling about what was in the paper. Fortunately, my almost ex-husband got most of the blame.
But what do you mean, almost ex?
Paris is an excellent place for a quiet divorce, and for one's father approves. You should go away, too.
Why?
You tried so hard to do the right thing that...
They've been here.
What?
They had nothing to do with your father.
Are you all right?
Do you care?
Of course I care.
Well, I'm a little bruised. I'm just going to have a drink to ease the pain, if you care to join me.
I'm packing to catch a plane, but... Well, perhaps I could fit a drink in. Just one. Where?
I haven't a car tonight.
Then I'll come to your place. Marlowe, would you consider marrying me?
It wouldn't last 6 months.
For God's sake, what do you expect from life?
I'm 47. I'm spoiled by independence.
I'm 36. It's not a crime to have money, or to marry it. We could both fly to Paris. Do you have something against marriage?
Well, for 2 people in 100, it's wonderful. The rest, just work at it. In 10 years, you wouldn't know me in the street.
You bastard. I want more champagne.
This way, you'll remember me.
You conceited bastard. Why should I remember you?
I'll get the champagne.
I've paid you the greatest compliment I know how to pay. I asked you to marry me.
You paid me a greater compliment.
Oh, you fool, Marlowe. You utter fool. All right, I won't remember you in 6 months. Bring out the champagne.
The French have a phrase for it. Dire adieu, c'est mourir un peu. To say goodbye is to die a little. The bastards have a phrase for everything, and they are always right. Well, there was just one more thing to do. I went to Potter's lawyer and asked him what he had seen in Mexico. He told me about the body. I asked him why a town with only one street like Otataclan would have a street mailbox. Then I waited. A month later, an elegant Mexican walked into my office. He had dark hair and a mustache, and a note from Randy Starr introducing him as Cisco Mayoranas.
Senor, I was at the hotel at the time, working there as day clerk. The mozo was afraid to go up to Senor Lennox's room. I went. He gave me the letter and some money, which I did not take. He had it gone. I hid the letter. I was going down the stairs when I heard a shot.
Any Americanos at the hotel?
2, on a hunting trip.
Did they go near the room?
Why should they?
Go back to Starr and tell him to send somebody who knows what he's talking about.
Senor, you doubt my word?
Did you mail the letter in the box in front of the hotel?
Otataclan is a very small place. He has no need of a street mailbox.
You never went to his room for a letter. The 2 Americans went there. I'm telling you what I think happened. One of them was Menendez. He bribed the local police. Then they slugged Terry, put a blank in the Mauser, put it to his head, and made a nasty powder burn. Then he was doped and packed in ice, so that Potter's lawyer thought he saw a cold and very dead stiff. The next day, a coffin with stones in it was buried. Possible?
If the Senor Menendez had relatives in Otataclan, possible. But you are still accusing me of lying. You say I did not go to the room for the letter?
No. You were already there. You were writing it.
I suppose it's a little early for a gimlet. You like the plastic surgery, old top? They even changed my nose.
How close did I come?
Close enough. Mendy didn't like me writing to you, but I held out for that. He undersold you. He didn't notice the bit about the mailbox.
Did you know who killed Sylvia?
It's pretty tough to turn a woman in for murder, even if you knew her long ago and in another country.
How is Mendy these days?
Retired to Acapulco. How about that gimlet?
Here. Your portrait of Madison. I enjoyed playing with it. The $500 is still in the coffee can. I'll keep that for expenses.
Keep it all. You could have let things lie.
Sure. After Eileen killed her husband and got away with it, she might have gone on to better things. What did he matter? He just wrote books.
I didn't see any choice. I was the prime suspect. I got scared. Mendy was there to help. I only had a few hours to sort it out before I got to you that morning. What should I have done?
Pick up the money, Terry.
We were pretty good friends once.
Yeah. For a long time, I couldn't figure it. Till I realized you were a nice guy only because you had a nice nature. You're a moral defeatist. Maybe the war did it to you. Maybe you were born that way.
I grew up in an orphanage in Montreal. The act is all there is. I couldn't have told you any more than I did that morning. You wouldn't have stood for it.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
I came back too late.
You wouldn't have come back at all if I hadn't smoked you out.
I am what you see. Senor Mayoranos, who lives in Mexico and has a nice time.
Adios, Senor Mayoranos.
Goodbye, Marlowe.
I sat and I sat. Maybe I wanted him to come back and talk me out of the way I felt, but he didn't. Nobody could. That was the last I saw of him. It was goodbye. Goodbye to all of them, including Linda. Except the cops, of course. No way has been invented to say goodbye to them in this cruel world.
In Bill Morrison's radio adaptation of Raymond Chandler's novel, The Long Goodbye, Ed Bishop played the part of Philip Marlowe, Toby Robbins that of Eileen Wade, and Margaret Robertson, Linda Loring. Roger Wade was played by David March, Terry Lennox, Peter Marinker, Howard Spencer, Don Fellows, Mendy Menendez, Blaine Fairman, Bernie Oles, Harry Taub, Dr. Loring, Paul Maxwell, Harlan Potter, Bob Sherman, Captain Hernandez, Gordon Stern, Lonnie Morgan, Henry Knowles, Grants, Rod Beecham, Sergeant Green, William Roberts, Detective Dayton, Neville Jason, Willie Magoon, Bill Morrison, Chick Agostino, Malcolm Gerard, Candy, Anthony Daniels, and the barman, Brian Hewlett. The music consultant was Adrian Edwards. The play was directed by John Tideman.
Thatcher has resigned. British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher announced today that she's stepping down after 11 and a half years. She'd been faced with rising opposition and had failed to beat back a challenge this week from within her own Conservative Party. One member of Parliament says Thatcher is the greatest peacetime Prime Minister Britain has ever had. Even opposition Labour members of the House of Commons are paying tribute to Thatcher as their longtime opponent. But Thatcher has said no to Labour's call to hold elections now. That appeal came from Labour leader Neil Kinnock, who says the British people should be able to choose a new government in the wake of Thatcher's resignation. Even though she's stepping down, Thatcher's Conservatives still have a majority in the Commons. Tory lawmakers will choose her successor next week. Again,